Everything else has been taken care of, Mr. Hodge. All the consent is already been taken care of.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Public hearing. Presentation of Alternative 2 as a preferred alternative for the CoCLX Intermodal Transportation Center feasibility study. And I believe we have a team of people. If you could all introduce yourselves.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, and members of the public. My name is Virginia Mendoza. I'm a transportation planner for the Imperial County Transportation Commission. I've also served as the project manager for this study. We have been working, ICTC has been working in collaboration with the city staff, City of Calexico staff, Caltrans, SCAG, and our consultant team to complete the feasibility study of an intermodal transportation center within the city. We've completed the draft final report and have come up with a recommended site. We have presented our findings from our draft final report to the Calexico Chamber of Commerce, and we have received a very well-received, it's been very well received by the business community of the city of Calexico, so we're happy to report on that. As well as part of our final public review, we are conducting this public hearing tonight, which we have publicized in both the Ivy Press, and we have made copies of our draft final report, which looks like this, available both at City Hall and the Camarena Library as of September 8th. So we've had these documents available to the public, and now we'd like to hold our public hearing. So I'm going to refer to our consultant team for a brief presentation, and then open this hearing to comments from the council and the community at large.
Thank you, Virginia, and thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. My name is Greg Walker, and I represent the consulting team. With me is Steve Castaneda. He's going to talk about the public involvement process that we've used. We were last here in front of this board, in front of this council on June 17th, and we presented at that presentation a lot of the more detailed background information and the rationale that set up the initial set of alternatives and what narrowed those down to 3 alternatives that then proceeded into the final evaluation. And so now we're here. Sorry. And so now we're here to present that final evaluation and what our final recommendation is. So this is a feasibility study, and I just wanted to point out that there are a couple of other facilities that have recently been completed in Imperial County. This being the El Centro Regional Bus Transfer Station was completed in January, or opened in January 2014. This one is very similar with the set of amenities and functions that take place at the site as to what we were proposing in Calexico. It has a different shape to it, and so the organization of everything on the site is a little bit different than what we're going to present. But basically, I just call attention to the top picture, which is a separate building. Here, in this case, in El Centro, it's to be used as a police substation eventually. But then also on the bottom picture to illustrate the canopy covering that we were proposing, and you'll see in the photos and the graphics that we present on the recommendation. Another facility that's recently been completed here in Imperial County is the Brawley Transit Transfer Station. That was completed or opened in August of 2013. The El Centro facility had a final budget of about $4.7 million. You can see that this one doesn't have quite as extensive of the canopy coverage. It's more some bus shelters and some landscaping, and a very nice facility in its own right. And it was completed, or opened in 2013, and it had a budget of approximately approximately $2 million for that. So those are just a couple of examples in the last little over a year that have been done in Imperial County, and to set up what we want to do here in Calexico as well. But before we get into that, I would like to ask Steve up to give an overview for the public's benefit, overview of what the public participation process was.
Thank you, Greg, and thank you, Mr. Mayor and honorable City Council members. What you have tonight is a product of a pretty significant and a wide public engagement and participation program that was employed to help the design team, help the selection team understand what the concerns were of the business community, the community at large, the rider community, as well as the transportation providers that were operating in Calexico. So we did a number of things. First thing we did was we conducted a number of stakeholder interviews. We talked to members of the community that represented business, that represented transit providers, that represented healthcare providers, education. And what we heard is that there were four main issues that we had heard and pretty much throughout all of our interviews, and that was safety. Most people felt that downtown Calexico is a safe place, but there were some issues with the existing transit center that is at 3rd and Pollen. There was concerns about that. People were interested in what exactly this transit center would have, what amenities. People were interested, if it was going to be downtown, that it be an active benefit or an active asset in the improvement of downtown, and then also that transit services, be expanded to meet the various needs of all the people that need transit services in Calexico. So, next slide, please. So the first thing we did was we met with, we invited all of the businesses that provide transportation services in Calexico, everyone from taxis to private buses. We had Imperial Valley Transit there. What we heard is that safety was a concern, particularly along First Street. Taxi bandits, raiteros were a major issue, private drivers not adhering to traffic laws and undercutting the licensed transit providers. The main issue that they had regarding a new facility was that there needed to be enough space to accommodate everyone. There needed to be proximity to the border, and they wanted to see a distinct transit center that was a signature not only for the transit services that are going to be provided there, but also for downtown Calexico. We did a community walk. Then Mayor Hodge was a member of that. Supervisor Renison joined us, as well as members of the community, and we toured all the various sites that were being looked at and evaluated as part of the study. We got a lot of information, a lot of feedback from the community, which was all synthesized and used in the final recommendation before you tonight. And then we culminated that with a community forum in which we had these aerial maps at various stations. We asked people from the community to come in and talk about the various concerns, the various issues that they had with each of the locations. And we got a lot of different suggestions, comments, concerns. And again, all of these notes and all of these suggestions were synthesized and used in one way or another in the final evaluation. We also surveyed transit riders on both IVT and Calexico Transit Service, allowed us to be on board, as well as Numero Uno. There's a little bit of a rundown on some of the demographics that we had. The vast majority of folks are in the low-income range, and most of them depended on public transit because they would have no other way to get where they wanted or where they needed to go. So many of the things that you see right there are features that they desired, amenities. They wanted to stay low cost. They wanted more seating available at the transit center, shaded areas, and first and foremost, public restrooms. So, back to Greg with the alternatives.
Okay, thank you, Steve. I just want to also say that this presentation will be available on the website, on the ICTC website tomorrow, or well, in the next couple of days, so that everybody can have a copy of that. But just for background information, Council, you've seen these before. These were the 6 alternatives that were suggested by the steering committee that was providing direction to the project. Next slide, please. At our last presentation in June to this body, we presented that alternatives 1, 3, and 4 were to be eliminated, primarily due to loss of public parking and also due to either size or configuration of the or distance from the port of entry of the locations. So that was, sorry, I should have gone through these. Alternative 1 is at the corner of 3rd and Paulin. Alternative 2 is between Rockwood and Heffernan on 3rd Street. And alternative 3 is on the corner of 3rd and Heber Avenue. Alternative 4, 5, and 6 roughly are near or adjacent to the intersection of Heber Avenue and East 1st Street. So with the council's nod, we moved forward with the alternatives 2, 5, and 6 into the next level of evaluation. And so I'd like to talk to you about those. And that phase included development of a conceptual layout. And what we tried to do was, one of our objectives in developing the concepts for the sites was to utilize as much on-site property or real estate as possible to keep the different vehicles, whether they were the private transit shuttles or the IBT buses or potentially Greyhound buses. We tried to keep those off-street and on-site in order to decrease traffic impacts and disruptions to the rest of downtown. And so this is our concept for Alternative 2. We were able to achieve that for the most part in this initial concept there. Next slide, please. Alternative 5 is a little bit more difficult. If you'll know, this is the dirt property or unimproved property that is along the border, along East 1st Street, approximately at Heber Avenue, extending over to Blair. And this has an additional complication with it in that we've been informed about the Roosevelt easement, or what is commonly known as the Roosevelt easement, which prohibits construction within 60 feet of the border. And so we tried to develop this concept so that it honored that easement, and that effectively pushed most operations out into the street of East 1st Street. So that was one complication with this one. Next alternative, please. Alternative 6, one thing that was interesting about this was this is the location of the existing downtown Calexico Transit System Transit Center, and where taxis queue up, et cetera. And so we looked at this. It also is the site of the historic customs building. And a key feature of this concept would be to utilize the historic customs building, which is currently vacant, and repurpose that into part of the transportation center itself, with the potential of housing public restrooms, information, ticket sales, and then potentially also Greyhound if they were amenable to transferring over there and using that facility and basically reactivating it and bringing it back to life. To make one little improvement to it, we discovered that with the use of turning templates on the different vehicles, it might be more effective to take the existing transit center that's there in the street, in the Heffernan right-of-way, and reconstruct that, moving it slightly to the east to give a little bit more room on the west. Not changing any function or any use of it, but just reconstructing it into a new facility and repositioning it in the street. This alternative also would include the widening of the southern half, or the sidewalks on the southern side of East 1st Street to create more of a pedestrian-friendly environment, just a wider sidewalk for people to utilize. To do that, it needs to restrict the width of the travel lanes, or the availability of right-of-way, I should say, for travel lanes. And we achieve that in this alternative by taking the angled parking that is currently on the north side of East 1st Street and converting that to parallel parking which decreases the number of parking spaces available. And then for site circulation, we also were proposed in this to take the block that is immediately in front of the port of entry along East First that is currently one-way westbound between Rockwood and Heffernan, and converting that to two-way in order to assist in getting the transit vehicles down Rockwood and east along First to the curb lane that would be proposed for their utilization along the southern half of East First. So this one gets a little complicated, but those are the three concepts that we proceeded to evaluation with. And this is the final evaluation matrix that was approved by the steering committee. And I just remind that, like the first evaluation that evaluated all 6 alternatives, these are relative to each other. So nothing in particular is a fatal flaw in these, but relative to the others, some have better features and rate better, particularly one rates better than the others in the criteria. And not to belabor the point and go through every one of these items, but just to hit a few of the more interesting aspects. The site that is up on East 3rd Street in terms of on-street or surface lot parking loss, the net loss in that site is approximately 22 spaces, mostly along the curbside, whereas the loss in parking both on-street and off-street for the 2 alternatives remaining on East 1st Street are approximately 90 spaces and 100 spaces, so there's a large difference there in the loss of parking for those. In terms of the capital costs range from a little over $6.5 million to almost $11 million. Let's see what else I wanted to share. Oh, in terms of size. So they all had a good acreage size if you just measured the acreage, the gross acreage, but usable acreage or usable square footage is very different amongst the 3. The number, alternative 2 along East 3rd Street is a good rectangular shaped property that lends itself well to the type of uses we're proposing. The more triangular shaped property along that we call alternative 5, which is that unimproved lot, while it is large in terms of overall size, much of it is unusable, and as well as the other site along East 1st Street. And then one thing that kept coming up in multiple environments, both from this body and from our transportation providers and from the public, was the utilization. While anything along East 1st Street would be positive in terms of it would be close to the port of entry, it would be very bad in terms of pedestrian traffic, or not pedestrian traffic, but automobile traffic and transit vehicle operations. Given the level of congestion that exists at different times of the day along East 1st Street, it'd be very difficult to reliably get buses in and out of there and keep them on schedule for the rest of their routes. And those buses would also add to additional congestion and delay for the general automobile, particularly in the holiday seasons when downtown traffic gets heavier. And so those are some of the highlights. And this, as you can see, of course, I should have explained in the beginning, but maybe it doesn't need an explanation. Green is good, red is bad, and black is in the middle. So through this evaluation and working with the steering committee, the recommendation is for alternative 2 to be identified and selected as the preferred alternative in this feasibility study. So with that, our scope of work called for doing further refinements to the final recommendation. As you'll see here, this is a little bit prettier picture than what in the conceptual drawings. So this is just the initial thought of what alternative 2 could look like. It has a building added to it to have public restrooms and drinking fountains, and potentially to be used as Greyhound, as a ticketing facility and baggage and customer waiting area for the Greyhound. That creates, we tried to incorporate that into every one of the alternatives, and for the most part we were successful. And the hopes is that would incorporate a public-private partnership element into the project in which we might be able to draw in private capital dollars to assist in developing the site. And if you'll go to the next one, this one's a little bit easier to visualize what we're talking about. Large canopy structure across a median platform, or center platform I call it, where buses are on either side, so that if people are getting off one bus and need to catch the next bus, they don't need to cross traffic to do that. They just walk down the platform to the other appropriate spot. And so this is what we are recommending as the preferred alternative. We're not saying that adopt this particular architectural style. This is just a concept, an architect's initial concept of what might be able to happen at the site. But you'll have further opportunity as the project progresses to define what it actually looks at and what looks like and what the architectural features are included. Next slide. So some of the benefits, we see that there's a large benefit to this site in terms of operations for the transit services for the private providers as well as for the public providers, as well as for the taxis that would like to use the site that they had told us about. The potential for the public-private partnership, we believe, is highest here for this site, given its flexibility. And we also just, without belaboring and going through all of these, another comment that we heard over and over again was the site should draw people through downtown without being too far away to inhibit utilization. And we feel that this site meets that purpose. It draws people down through downtown, gets them through the shopping district to a nice facility that is available without delay to the transit vehicles and without impact to the existing traffic. Next slide. And so we're here tonight to just tell you about this. We will be back. We'll solicit public comments on the draft final report. We'll incorporate those at the end of the week, by Friday, October 17th, sorry. We'll come back here again on the 21st with any of those comments and the final report and ask for your consideration of that, and follow up the next day by going to the Imperial County Transportation Commission and presenting the final recommendation to them as well. Further development beyond the scope of this existing feasibility study would be to conduct the environmental review, preliminary engineering, final engineering, and then begin construction. The schedule that we've laid out in the implementation plan in the draft final report has an opening for the facility in 2018. And with that, I go to the next slide. That's the locations that Virginia mentioned where you can find a copy of the draft final report. And we look forward to any comments from the public or from the council. Thank you very much.
I would like to just make one clarification. We have not identified funding for design and construction. We have only completed this feasibility study at this time. The dates that Greg just went over as far as design, construction, and ribbon cutting are potential dates if funding is identified. So I just want to make that clarification.
Thank you, Virginia. Yes, that's...
Well, thank you very much. That was an excellent presentation. It looks very nice, and I applaud your efforts of your team. This is a public hearing.
Correct.
Right now, I'd like to solicit input from the public, and I'd like to call those that are in favor. I'll open the public hearing at approximately 8:46 p.m. Sorry about that. Thank you for reminding me. And if there's anyone that is in favor of this project, please come forward, state your name and address for the record, and Mr. Kim will time you with 3 minutes.
Thank you.
And that was thumbs up by Norma Aguilar.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone else? Oh, okay. Okay, everybody give me the thumbs up. I'd like to invite those that are not in favor of this particular project to come up and give your 3 minutes, state your name and address for the record. Seeing that there is none, I'd like to now close the public hearing at approximately 8:47 and bring it back to council for any questions or clarifications that you may have. Again, I will make sure that each of you get 2 minutes for this discussion so we can move expeditiously. Mr. Hodge.
Well, being on the commission, we've looked at it and studied it, and I think that this is the right choice. I think this is the best position. All the arguments given, the pros and cons, I favor this position,
Okay, thank you, Mr.
this location.
I have one question. That old Rite Aid Safeway building, would that be raised? It would?
Yes.
Okay, that's all the question I have, because it...
It will.
All right, I have no other questions unless anyone else has any questions.
Yes, I do.
Okay, Mr. Kim, go ahead.
I've been stating several times, as a Calexico citizens, I don't like to see our possible customer transporting away from the Calexico downtown to the other city. I agree that valley-wide have transportation, but it shouldn't be nearby the Calexico downtown. It should be northern side of Calexico. Make sure our potential customer in downtown and Calexico should stay in Calexico. And whoever wants to go to other city, they can go to northern side of the Calexico facility, or citizens of Calexico, for them to not really matter downtown or northern side, to if they want to use the bus to go outside of the Calexico.
Yeah.
I believe that we, as a council member, has to be protected one of the source of the commercial retailers. And I am rejecting, or I'm not happy. I'm happy to see this nice project going on, but I'm not happy to see at the downtown areas in Calexico.
Thank you, Mr. Kim. Anyone else would
I'd
like...
like to add something. I think that with the comment that Mr. Kim just said right now, we need to remember that not only are the individuals that are being transported out of Calexico a part of this conversation, we also have the different services that the county has transporting individuals from the north end of the city back into Calexico. So this is not just pumping out individuals out of Calexico, it's also bringing them back. This is a system that goes around. So it's an unfair criticism to say that these efforts that the county is doing for the city of Calexico is only to pump out individuals from this city. That is incorrect. This city is also receiving quite a bit of services of individuals that are coming from the north end, just as close as Heber and El Centro.
Thank you, Ms. Hurtado.
If I may,
Yes,
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Mendoza.
I just wanted to make the clarification as
Thank
part
you.
of part of the services that will be hosted by this facility are the not only regional transportation but also intercity transportation services, taxi services, and
Intercity.
yes, intercity are definitely going to be, and also public and private transit services. Private transit services will also be, as Mr. Walker presented in the rendering, there is bus bays that have been identified for not only regional transit services as well as private transit, intercity transit services.
But in intercity and existing systems in our city,
Correct.
they will be able to share and be able to use that beautiful facility.
Any other questions?
I would like to make a motion to approve this.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
We're not asking for approval. We're just, this
we're
is
not-
a public hearing.
Just public hearing.
Usually public hearings require action, don't you?
Well, if you want,
Bummer.
we
Okay.
don't have a final draft
Okay.
report.
Oh, well, there you go.
All right, then.
I'm sorry about that.
Me too.
2 weeks, we'll be back.
Okay.
Yeah, we would. We'll approve
All
it
right.
when it's time.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Kim. All right, moving on to the next item, which is
I requested this.
Mr. Hodge requested and I believe it's been discussed before, but I know that a young lady by the name of Marta Eloy Martinez has been concerned about the heavy truck traffic on Highway 98 and Cole Road. And I've seen that traffic firsthand, and it backs up all the way from 98 and 111, specifically passing Heber Avenue all the way to Blair on some occasions. And we're looking at alternative routes, perhaps, and I think that's what Mr. Zavine is ready to talk to us about.
Say some positive things, Mr. Zavine.
Thank you. Let me pass it.
And I have a person who would like to
Comment
come up
on
and say and comment. Would you like to start off the comments, Ms. Martinez? Okay. You can sing a song, too, while you're at it.
Oh, she sings. She sings.
She can sing a very good song.
Oh, yeah? All right. I'm going to talk to you, Mrs. Martinez.
You have 3 minutes, Ms.
Okay.
Martinez, if you will start timing.
All right,
Martha
that's
Martinez from
Cole,
El Centro,
and that's
California.
98. Okay.
Most of my family lives in Calexico, so I've been here since 1958. And most of them live here, so I'm always here. Also, from the perspective of a real estate broker, I have the tendency of driving all around the valley and noticed how much truck traffic there is in Calexico. And it got to the point where it's kind of scary looking both sides and being surrounded by trucks. And I thought, why don't I get that when I drive through El Centro? And I noticed that they have the signs just before you get onto Imperial Avenue that says no 2-axle vehicles allowed on Imperial Avenue in El Centro. Okay, so I thought, why not here? Especially since this is such a complicated community with very passionate people. Why not divert traffic like they've done in other cities? I know that in Somerton, you're only allowed to drive 25 miles through the town of Somerton when you're driving towards, San Luis. And it's like being in a funeral procession, you know. I don't see that for our town. I see diverting traffic to Cole Road or Jasper Road, and those roads are plenty fine because in Imperial on Keystone Road is traveled mainly by agricultural semis, big, huge trucks, and it's a teeny, tiny, tiny, tiny road. It doesn't have to be an 8-lane or 16-lane to accommodate semis. Any lane will do. So I'm asking the honorable members of the council if there is a way with Mr. Servine to contact Caltrans and have them remedy this for us. Everybody's aware of the dangers. My sister saw 2 kids almost get run over. I saw a St. Bernard get shredded to bits, and that was sad. I don't want that for our kids. I mean, our kids. There's so many schools on that street. We all know the circumstances. So something needs to be done. Yes?
Yes.
I guess I'm done.
C.
Now I sing?
No, are you done?
I want to sing.
No. I was just kidding.
Why can't she
Thank you, Ms. Martinez. And I'll defer now to Mr. Servine.
Hello, members of the council and public. Yes, this problem has been at our top of the list for many, many years. The map I just passed out to you, you can see that it was done in 2005 when we had a lot of development happening in Calexico. As a result of all the traffic and the growth that was taking place at that time, this was a preliminary preliminary concept of where the truck traffic could have been diverted. As you can see, it's all diverted away from the city limits. However,
The blue, right, sir? The blue.
Yes, in blue. Yeah, there was an interim shown in orange that you can see. However, the development never came through, and therefore we didn't collect the fees. The infrastructure did not get built, and a lot of things just didn't happen in timely fashion. As we well know, in 2006, development, the bottom fell out of development, and so did the funds and the projects that we had in place. So the thought was already there. The plans have already been worked out with Caltrans, the county, and other agencies, including LAFCO. But so we have to wait until we get a lot of funding. There's a lot of cooperation that we need to do with Caltrans. We are constantly working with Caltrans to try to improve on things. Regarding the traffic along Highway 98, or 111 for that matter, and some of the questions were brought up as to why we can't put certain things, restrictions on Highway 111, especially through Imperial or Highway 98. On Highway 98, we do have some 25-mile-per-hour signs when when the kids are present. So that's already in place. Yes, not everybody observes that, but here we need cooperation by the public and the police to do that. Now, the police can't be there every single time, of course, but anyway, it's already there. We've taken that into consideration. We're looking at other things to consider as well. One of them is that we're going to be talking to Caltrans. We already discussed it with them about trying to put some pedestrian-friendly improvements where it would slow down the traffic and at the same time keep the public kind of safe by making projections. But since this is all Caltrans property, we, the city, don't have any power to tell Caltrans what to do. It belongs to Caltrans.
On 98?
On Highway 98 and 111 in Imperial. Right now it belongs to Caltrans. So the next obvious question would be, well, why don't we take it over? Well, if we do, then we take it on ourselves, which means that all the improvements will have to it'll have to come out of our budget, which, of course, as you've seen, we don't have. And then there's a lot of other improvements that Caltrans is considering right now. As a matter of fact, we're working with them for the expansion of Highway 98. They're working already on the expansion between Ollie and Ellis.
Yes.
For widening that portion of the highway. And then there's other plans even beyond to the east and to the west to expand on Highway 98, making it a lot friendlier. But again, they're open for suggestions. They're open for us and the public working with them. And they're limited with funding. We have to make presentations and we have to just work with them to see what can happen in a timely fashion.
Okay. May I say something?
Yeah, Mr. Hodge, go ahead.
Mr. Savine, I thank you for paying attention to this issue. Slowing it down to 25 is very good, and pedestrians, but that, to me, is not the point. I think, like you say, we should begin to take steps. We should do a campaign. But I think the real issue is to get those trucks, especially off of 98. They're ruining the roads, which makes it more difficult for the vehicles. They can be rerouted. Because this is a real safety issue. John, how many schools are along 98? 4? 5?
5.
And like Ms. Martinez said, you're driving, all of a sudden, whoa, you look over on one side and there's one big truck and there's another, and you feel like you're going to get squeezed. What our objective should be, even if it takes a time, but we encourage the community. We do a campaign. We work with Caltrans. We do the best we can. We are turning the corner economically. 2006, that's the past now. What I hear nationally, we're turning the corner. Are we where we should be? Of course not, but we're turning the corner economically. So even if it takes some time, I think we should begin to seriously, as a community, work together in the city with the people to do a campaign and do our best to convince Caltrans that we need to reroute those trucks. It's a real safety issue. I don't want to give up on this. I don't want to say, well, because we don't have the money. I think we should start taking definite steps, find ways. They say no, we find other ways. I don't know. I don't want to give up on this. So, Mr. Servine, I'll be very willing to work with you. We can maybe have a campaign from the people. But the issue is the trucks. they should not be on that road. Especially 98. Especially 98. I don't know if you agree with that, but that to me is a real safety issue. So let's not say no. Let's say we'll do our best. We'll take steps towards this, no matter how long it takes, and we'll come together. We'll find options. It may take a while, but we'll focus on it. That's the attitude I would like, sir. And I know you're quite capable of having that attitude.
And that's what we're trying to do. Like I said, I'm working with Caltrans, ICTC, and they've both been very generous in offering to help however they can. So the discussions are ongoing. Since I had very short time to put this together, that's all I can come up with right now. But I'll have updates for you as more council meetings approach.
But is it not possible someday, somehow, some way, we could remove those trucks?
Well, remember, you have this 2005 plan, so it was already studied.
It was already, okay.
Yes. And the current projects that come into town, such as Mega Park, Palazzo, and so on, all those have to take that into consideration. So that was being, maybe ICTC can lead some words here, but every time a developer comes into town, they have to do a traffic study, and that is one of the primary corridors, Jasper and beyond.
Okay.
But we don't have the infrastructure right now. All that.
Mr. Baza, go ahead.
If you don't mind, Council. Mark Baza, ICTC. Caltrans, it is a state highway, State Route 98. And by statute, they cannot put truck weight limitations on a state highway. And so what Mr. Savine said is, the city would ultimately have to take over to be able to do whatever it chooses to do.
We should.
So that's a challenge. Now on Imperial Avenue off the freeway in El Centro, that is not a state highway. City of El Centro can do what it pleases on that particular street. They cannot do that on 4th Street 86 through El Centro, because that is a state highway. So
But then Imperial, becomes 86.
No,
Yes,
North
of Adams.
North of Four Corners.
North of Adams, it becomes State Route 86, but Imperial Avenue from I-8 to Adams is not a state highway.
Okay.
So that's why the city can put a limitation on that portion of 86
understand that.
of Imperial Avenue, because that is not a state highway. North of Adams, it is a state highway. 4th Street, all the way from county through the city of El Centro, is a state highway. That Caltrans cannot, by statute.
All right, so we don't have the budget this year, but we could start to take steps,
Well,
make vision about us reclaiming or claiming that territory. So we can do what we want with it.
It is part of our long-range plan for Imperial Valley.
It is?
To reroute 98 to Jasper as an alternative.
Okay, very good.
But it's a very expensive proposition, and that's the challenge that we have.
Well, the loss of one child is worth paying all of it.
So it is still part of our plans.
Or anyone.
But we have to, find the money for the initial environmental studies as well as to.
Okay. Well, I just say let's focus and start working on it, or continue to work on it.
Mr. Mayor, may I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead.
I believe that you mentioned, Mr. Servin, that Highway 98 does have a section that's already a 25-mile zone. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Can you kind of identify where that 25-mile zone is?
That's right in front of the high school, and I think right in front of Main School.
Oh, really? 25?
So it's only portions of 98 that
Yes.
are designated?
I don't see them go 25.
In the proximity.
I'm sorry.
In the proximity of those schools.
Okay. Hold on.
Yeah,
Wait a minute.
I
So
would
that
like
was
a
one
formal
question.
clarification. What we have zoned, he's indicating there's something else posted. I think that's important because if at a minimum, with better enforcement action in that area, at least have a 25-mile zone that we could do for now. But I'd like to identify what exact areas of 98 are zoned and what the speed limits are.
I'll get more information from Caltrans. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you have
Any
a
other
question?
questions?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Kim.
First of all, I was speaking with the former city manager about the option to detouring our the 98 from the Dogwood to the hospital to the Santa Barbara. I mean the Barbara Woods, I'm sorry. The Barbara Woods Road to the joining again the 98 to the go to the 97. But we was talking, and also the other one is the 111 taking over to the finishing the 111 at the at least the Colo to the south side of the Colo to taken over by the city, so we can control the way ourselves. We was the discussion of that, but after that we have a city manager resigned it, and right now I see the two options we have to take it. The detouring the 98, I believe it's going to be a lengthy process, but the 98 between the Rockwood and the Andrade, even the Rivera, they have straight, wide street. There's not many signals. So we should put the signal first to, let's say, I believe some people from the CM Perry, and the other one is, I believe, Blair. They have lots of issues in the collision over there. And also we have another one at, I believe, Holdridge. They have a signal. They kind of like very little tricky signal down here. So we put the more signal. I think it's more easier to slow down. At least be more than truck, slow down the speed. That's the best interest for now. So short term, we're taking care of those things, and then later on, same time we're working on the detouring the truck route to the hospital road. I think we have to take the step by step.
Okay, that's good.
Okay, thank you. There is no action on this item, but you'll be providing us with updates.
Yes, I will.
Okay, let's move on to the next item, which is the introduction and waive first reading of an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Calexico repealing chapters, all those chapters, 13 and its sections, and then Chapter 1, Water System, Title 13, Public Services of the Calexico Municipal Code, and adding Chapter 1, Water Service sections of 13.01.010 through 13.01.720 to Title 13, Public Services of the Calexico Municipal Code. And we had background?
Yes. Mayor, members of the City Council, members of the public, our current water service ordinance was written in 1969 and is outdated. So what we have done is we have gone through and we have written an update. And this brings us into compliance with state and federal regulations as well as current practices of the City of Calexico. We do have just a couple of minor changes that we would like to suggest to the City Council before we would suggest that they adopt it. If you go to Section 13.01.310, I'll wait till everybody gets that. Page 17, second line, there's the word occupant. We want to change that to customer. Okay? And then in that same section, down on the last line on page 17, we want to change the third word over from property owner to customer. Okay? And then on page 23, section 13.01.450, fourth line down, it says, council pursuant to this section or pursuant to chapter, and it says 13.4. That should be 13.40. Right. So we have worked with the Finance Department, the Public Works Department, Development Services Department on this particular ordinance. It's been vetted across the staff. Our city attorney has also reviewed it. So we recommend that the first reading be adopted after the City Council entertains or asks any questions that they might have, and we can entertain any suggested changes.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions on this item? Seeing that there is none, is there a motion for its approval? Moved by Ms. Hurtado. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Hodge. Please vote.
Mr. Mayor, I'll read the title of the
Please read the
ordinance.
title.
It's an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Calexico repealing chapters 13.04, 13.08, 13.12, 13.16, 13.20, 13.24, 13.28, and 13.30 of Chapter 1 Water System, Title 13, Public Services of the Calexico Municipal Code, and adding Chapter 1 Water Service, Sections 13.01.010 through 13.01.720 to Title 13 Public Services of the Calexico Municipal Code. And the motion would be to waive full reading of the ordinance because I just read the title only and introduce the ordinance.
Okay, thank you very much. So there's a motion on the floor.
Oh, who made that motion? I did. Okay, I'll make that motion to waive
The first reading.
first reading.
And there was a second by Ms. Hurtado. So let's vote.
Come on, Gabby, you can do it. 45 minutes until coffee time, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, I have. Wait. There you go.
Okay, motion carries unanimously.
Is this the last?
This is item number 18, which is a consideration of a resolution to extend the employment agreement between the City of Calexico and interim city manager Richard Warren for an additional 6 months with terms to be agreed upon by the parties. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to motion for its approval.
There's a motion for its approval. Is there a second? Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on that, and let me get some public comments here first. Mr. Ben Horton.
Mr. Mayor, distinguished members of the City Council, we have before us a great opportunity to extend the contract of somebody that has shown the city a direction and improved the working ability of the city. Now, there are those who made some comments earlier with just comments, ladies and gentlemen. They didn't bring no facts, nothing to say what took place. And I always say, when something happens, there's always a reason for an action for a reaction. But getting back to the city manager, Richard, he's did a great job. Our budget is a budget that we can be proud of. The city is moving forward and working better. And the city council sets policy. The city manager administers the policy. He has his subordinates that he has to work with. And like anything, sometimes you don't agree, but you respect to disagree or to agree. I heard Mr. Casillas make some accusations, just words. I challenge him to show me the facts, all the facts. I challenge him. And I'm sure that if we look at the facts, there are always reason for everything, but not just accusations. So I hope with the wisdom of this body, you will extend it because he has done something to show the city a better way. And we need that to show the rest of whoever that we are moving forward, we're adjusting and moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Horton. Did you fill out a form, Mr. Romo? Oh, that's right. Did you take a nap? You're back already, huh?
Sort of.
That's okay, you don't have to tell us. We'll get you.
I was small. I
Go
was
ahead,
just
go ahead and
barely came
Start
over
timing.
here.
Thank you, Mr. Romo.
All right. John Romo, resident, City of Calexico. I wasn't here if there were any comments before. I've been here, and I actually haven't been attending city council meetings lately. I was out sick for August, September. But what I've seen in the past with this new city manager or interim manager, I see something positive, and I do agree with comments that some people are going to feel uncomfortable if this contract is extended. I myself found that the services that Mr. Warren has provided have given us a little bit of growth inside, and for the city council to move forward with it. It is true that the last time that I spoke was about the budget. I said that there was going to be adjustments to be made. All right, let's make those adjustments. That's up to the city council. But in short, Mr. Mayor and members of the public, I would like to support the extension because I think this council is moving forward. And I'm sorry if people feel uncomfortable about it. They shouldn't. They should be all working together. I stand neutral, but I support the city of Calexico and the best interest of it, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Romo. Ms. Padilla, I believe you had a...
I too would like to see Mr. Warren's extension granted. I've told him to his face, I was not a fan of him when he first came in. Anybody can look on my Facebook, and I put it on there. I read the same stuff that Mr. Casillas read, so I put it on there. But I've seen what he's done so far, okay? And you can see that he creates havoc with the CPOA because he's not their puppet like the one they had before. He's not the puppets that are up here. He's not the puppet that they have as the chief. This man stands his ground. Therefore, CPOA came with their posse, wives, kids, their little shirts, to intimidate him and you guys. Now, the three amigos are probably going to do their thing. We all know that because we know how they vote. They know how they think and who runs them. But he brought to you a budget that had not been done before. Some of you couldn't understand it. Some of you were upset because it was late and had issues with it. But he brought a budget, and I think he can do good things. You're only extending 6 months. Give him another 6 months to see what he can do, and if we don't like it, then you know what? We find somebody else. But do not vote on not giving it to him just because the bullies here, Blue Flame here, is telling you otherwise. Stand your ground. Have the balls to vote for what is right for Calexico.
Thank you, Ms. Padilla. All right. I'm bringing it back to our council. Any comments? I know that there was... we're bringing it back to the council now. Sorry. So the council... You still have a right to speak, Mayor. Yes. Excuse me. I got these forms, and I'm trying to run it fairly. I'm sorry, Mr. Casillas. Well, I'm doing it this way because I'm not going to have a discussion with you, Mr. Casillas, please. Thank you. Everybody had a chance to turn in their forms, and I'm bringing it back to the council for discussion. All of a sudden, we follow the rules now. Excuse me. Wait a minute. Excuse me, please. Please. Please.
Mr.
If the council has the floor now.
Mr. Moreno, why
Yes.
don't let the person to talk?
Because
that's what he only
because he at the last
already has
minute,
a form
excuse me, I'm running this meeting.
Okay,
All right, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll bend the rules today. Okay? Is anybody else want to come up and say anything? Other than Mr. Alarcon. Okay, Chris Wong, Mr. Romo, you've already had a chance to speak on this item. On this item. No, excuse me. Mr. Romo, you had a chance to speak on this item that we're on right now. And I have Mr. Chris Wong who wants to speak on this item, and I allow Mr. Alarcon 3 minutes to speak on this item. And that's it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good job. Good job.
You'll go first, Mr. Alarcon. Could you please time?
Good job, John.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, for giving me this opportunity. And there is pros and cons as there is.
Excuse me. Start again. No more outbursts, please, from anyone. Otherwise, we'll go into a recess.
Once again, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to come and speak to you again. There's several things that we must take into consideration. We absolutely really don't know much about Mr. Warren other than we have several department heads that have a contract that's on a day-to-day basis. Why is he so different? Why is he so different than anyone else here in the city of Calexico? He has told us that he is not willing to negotiate until after elections. So why not give this new council or possible new council the opportunity to make that decision upon themselves when they come into office, as he himself has suggested? The best thing to do is wait for the new council to come in, and then we can talk about negotiations all over again. Why is he different? Why can't he be treated like every other employee in the city? Mr. Horton, you come up here and you mention that all we have is allegations. No, Mr. Horton, there's people at home without a job. You know, from the police department, the reserves that got let go of, that are volunteers that don't cost the city any money. There's also people from the finance department that have been moved around. Let's not forget all that. Let's not forget all that manipulation that Mr. Warren's been doing. So when you make this decision, if he's doing such a great job, what's wrong with working on a month-to-month basis like everyone else, like every other department head in the city? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Alarcon.
Mr. Wong.
Chris Wong, go ahead.
830 Beach, Calexico. I'd like to express my support for Mr. Warren, not based on anything that's happened in the past or previous with the CPOA or any drama that's been going on in the city, mostly based on the breakdown of the budget. I haven't seen, I think he was mentioning and explaining things that even city council members were not aware of. He's innovative in the technology that he wants to bring into the city. I could go on and on. People, we could go on back and forth. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Wong. Okay, seeing that there are no more public comments, now I'll bring it back to the council for discussion and possible action on this item. Anyone like to start? I know you had
discussions.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Kim.
The fourth?
3 minutes, okay.
Is that Boston?
First of all, regardless Mr. Warren's the performance as a council member, we're supposed to put ourselves locked into the contract. That's all about when the hiring the process, we don't want to lock into the contract. That's the worst things we need to do, lock into the contract to do so. That's the first reason I'm trying to say that we should not renew the contract or we should not touch the contract. And the other one is we are election on the way. And so going out as council member gonna just try to lock into the contract to the new council members. Maybe some of them coming back in the elections, but I'm counting as like a new council. So whoever comes in, they're supposed to have option to choose their own new city manager. And also the stabilities, I believe the people talking, but stability is not caused by to renewing or extending interim city manager's contract. The stability is to try to what's called the starting to hiring process as soon as possible. So when we really hiring the new city manager, that is bring us to stability our city's situations. Again, I don't want to make any commitments until the new city manager comes, and also we should open the hiring process again. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kim, for your comments on that item. Is anyone else interested in saying anything about this item?
Yes, in my case...
3 minutes, Mr. Castro, please.
It's going to be less.
Okay.
I believe we need to wait until, I believe, the second meeting on December. I believe the first meeting on September, in order to make decision, because the election is going to be in November. So that's one of the reasons we need to wait until the new council come to and serve the city of Calexico. Basically, that's something that we need to respect the new council, because it's probably one of the two members that are here right now. They are going to get elected, or we don't know. So basically, my point is to wait until the new council arrives to the city of Calexico. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Castro. Anyone else want to speak on this item?
Yeah, I'd just like to make a comment that the fact that we are here discussing this has a lot to do with the decision that was made on this council to release our last city manager, Mr. Oscar Rodriguez. In actuality, I believe that we shouldn't even have to be discussing this, because the decision to have released Mr. Rodriguez, whichever way that he ended up formally presenting his departure, was unnecessary, it was unplanned, it was uncalled for. So at this point, the fact that ever since May that occurred, we continue to give our citizens instability. And that is unreasonable to continue to do that to our citizens. The fact that we have an election going on at this point does complicate the circumstances. I understand that part. I do believe that we do have a city manager that knows what he's doing. He's made some changes. He's rustled some feathers. And, you know, what I have heard from the union here is self-serving reasons as far as why they feel they don't like this city manager. I heard stalled negotiations. I heard MOU ratifications not occurring. Those are issues that can easily be discussed and worked out with your city manager. And I do not believe that the fact that we have this union here at this time putting pressure on this council to remove or to not continue with this city manager, there hasn't been any reason why, how our city, our citizens, the city of Calexico is affected by keeping this gentleman. I want to hear that. But as far as hearing the self-serving reasons why we need to release someone or not support someone who's been working their tail off in these circumstances that are so complex as it is a miracle that this gentleman wants to be working here. And so if we do not support someone such as him that is at this city working hard for us, then there will be no one that will be there for you when you need him. As far as when the decisions here that are being discussed to not have a decision about this city manager until the first days of December, well, your contract is up in December, the last days of December. What are we going to do from the first days of December to when he is then at the end of the contract? Are we going to pull somebody else out again like we did with Takata, where all of a sudden we have someone where we had no idea who he was? This gentleman went through at least somewhat of a process that was more reasonable, that was more legal to get to know who this person was. Now, be careful what you wish for, because you are the ones that all did not want Mr. Rodriguez here anymore. So if you left loose ends there, you got to work it out with this gentleman. But allow the city to have some peace and quiet, and let's work with this man and give our citizens the stability that they deserve. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hurtado. Mr. Hodge.
Stability is important. Part of stability is having the proper public safety. I commend the fire department for their tight organization, and I commend the police department. There are, but I don't think that we have adequate public safety with the police department, and that is a threat to our community. Now, I want to get something clear. Some people say that I am threatened or really influenced by them. I'm going to tell you straight out, I like them. I support the police department. Look at me, and you can vote whatever you want. I believe, me, nobody else, that they have gotten a rotten deal since Tabardis has came in. I think that the whole process in time has been unjust. And I support them. Are they arrogant? Yeah, they're arrogant. They're a union. Oh, here's something. I'm also union. I'm a teacher. And you don't mess with a ratification. You don't mess with an MOU. You don't do that. That's unethical. That's wrong. So as a union man, I don't like what Mr. Warden has done. He's tampering. He's going back and messing with their contract. I don't like that. So I support them. Now let me tell you something. If this investigation ever ends, which is costing $250 an hour, I believe, since over a year on this police department, and there is hard evidence that they have done wrong, I will be the first to stand up and say that they deserve the consequences. Nobody is above the law, not Chief Tabardis or any of these officers. But we need real evidence. So far, no evidence has come, except for a long time of spending city money. I don't need to be influenced. Just get it straight. I support them. I support them. I'm not threatened by them or influenced by them. I support them, and I think there's been injustice towards them. They've been demonized, just like teachers in general. Are they perfect? No. They need to be watched, and I need to expect that when one more officer, I want the bodice to bring the overtime down. It is a problem. But as we have a division here, the reason is why. So I don't want to be controversial. I want to be stable. So I want to do what we all agreed to do first. Don't you remember?
Please close.
That was to allow Mr. Warden to have his contract until the December. I don't want to do anything controversial. I want to stick to that process. It's stable.
Please close, Mr. Hodge.
There's stability in that process, and you recruit. End of speech.
Thank you very much. I look at the big picture here. I look at the pros and cons. I look at the history of CoCLX over the last 35 years, where we've had 26 city managers come in and out of our city hall. Too much change is not very good for any organization. An organization needs to have stability, as has been mentioned before, It needs to have structure. It needs to have systems in place. I believe the concerns by our POA are valid, but they can be resolved. They can be resolved with good faith and coming to the table and trying to figure out what's best for the city, not what's best for the CPOA. What's best for the city? Why did you go in the business that you went into? Mr. Hodge, you're a teacher. You went in to teach kids. And your interest is those kids. Police officers go into business to serve and protect. And that is the reason they go into the business they go into. We are elected to serve you and to serve the 40,000 people in this community. We've seen some good things come in the short time that Mr. Warren has been here. We've seen results. And there are other things that need to get done as well. But at this juncture, if we don't plan for the future, and I agree with other council members, let's do a search. But let's have that stability, let's have that cushion of up to June 30, because we couldn't get it done in the 6 months that he came, and that was the plan. By December, we'd have a city manager, but it didn't happen. We had some roadblocks, if you will. But if we were to look at our reasoning behind our decisions, we must put the citizens of Calexico first, and then the employees, because that's why we're here, to serve the citizens. We're not here to serve the employees, although that is part of the whole structure. Our main concern is making sure that we have a balanced budget, that we stay within our balanced budget, that we have services for our community, that we set policy, clean streets, a clean city, a safe city. But we've got to make a tough decision on who we want to lead this community. An interim is just, as they say in Spanish, por mientras. And until we find that permanent city manager, I'd like to entertain the concept to allow Mr. Warren to continue working with our staff in our community in the best capacity and the best way and good faith that he can. So, with that, I'd like to see if anyone would like to entertain a motion.
Yes,
Motion to
I'd like
not
to make the
approve it.
motion to approve.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, wait a minute.
I'm making the motion to you. She's interrupting.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
I'm making the motion.
Let's flip a coin. Because you both went at the same time.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter?
How gracious.
You don't want to flip a coin? Okay. No flip? Okay. All right, Mr. Kim, you have the floor.
I make the motion to not to approve it, and we don't discuss his contract until new council comes in.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor.
Second.
And second by Mr. Castro. Discussion has been made, and now I call for a vote at this time. And the motion carries 3-2. Next item, item number 19, is the payroll overtime report for August 2014. Review the payroll overtime report containing the pay periods ending August 5th and August 19th. Any questions on that item? Acknowledge and
Mr.
receive.
Mayor, I'd like to just ask the status of the police department's overtime plan of action as far as what occurred in the past, and how is it that we're going to be ensuring that this issue of the 1.2 million doesn't occur again?
I've had discussions with the police chief, and he has submitted to me some material, and we've had discussions. I've made it very clear to him that the expectation is that services are to be maintained, and he's to stay within his budget.
But I'd like to know about the report.
I will provide the council the letter he gave me.
I like to have how many police officers on the right now?
Oh, future items, we get to do that, right, John?
How many police officers right now in payroll?
That is the purpose of a report, Mr. Kim, is that would help us out a lot instead of just
No,
talking.
because I want to clarify do we have enough staff to causing the overtime or not?
I guess that would be included in the report.
But it's not there.
Okay. Well,
do we have
let's go into future agenda items.
Okay.
Or are we going to acknowledge this, sir?
We'll acknowledge the receipt of the overtime report.
Okay.
And everyone gets one future agenda item. And that reason is because, if you recall, Mr. Hodge only asked for one, and it came right at the next meeting. So if we stay on that type of pattern, we should be getting something done for the next meeting.
I respect what you say, sir.
Okay. Ms. Hurtado, is there a future agenda item that you'd like to include?
Yes, I'd like to see the report. Overtime
Okay.
report from the police department, please. With an evaluation, I believe a 3-year evaluation would be really good as far as staffing levels and where the overtime has been, like a graph or something like that.
Yeah, and I think I asked the police chief to contact you. Did he do that?
No.
He did not? Okay.
All right. Thank you very much. Mr. Hodge, is there an item that you'd like to include for future agenda items?
Yes. Dear council, I want you to really think about this and support this. I think we should have a senior citizen commission. As I have been walking, I have found that the seniors have a lot of needs and demands, and they're kind of isolated and alienated, and we need a commission to help them, to monitor and provide help to the needs of the senior citizens, to inquire about their needs on basic care and safety issues, to be a facilitator in this commission and advocate for seniors with important organizations and entities. They don't do as well with these outside entities or organizations that they depend on for the welfare. A commission would be a mediator, a one role. For instance, Mr. Kim has mentioned this before, and as I've been walking, it's true. These senior citizen complexes, I don't know what exactly you call it, but they need these large water machines. They need the large water machines because a lot of the seniors cannot go to the market and carry those big containers. The other thing I found at Spud Moreno is the owner, and we can put pressure on the owner. Okay. Well, I'm giving rationale for why.
Okay.
Is that okay?
That's fine.
Okay.
It's almost 10 o'clock, Mr. Hodge. I remind you that your coffee is getting cold.
Okay, we're going to get out of here before coffee. But listen, on one side of those apartments, you know what the owner does? He gives the seniors sandbags so the water doesn't slip into their apartments. An 85 or an 82-year-old lady having to pick up a 60-pound sandbag, that's not good. We need a commission to help them, to protect them, and there's a lot of issues they don't understand, to educate and inform them on Social Security and health care. So please, let's consider this, okay? That is my future agenda item.
So,
Senior Citizen Commission.
Senior Citizen Commission.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Romo. Very good idea, Mr. Hodge. And it could be part of one of our many commissions that we have already.
Yeah, that's true. I know. But
Mr. Kim, do you have an item that you would like on the future agenda?
Yes, I think I have one item pending about what's called instructed the city clerk to possible investigation on the recall process. It's not on the agenda yet. I believe our city attorney is going to diligent to looking into that. And this time I have another one to put the signal on the 98 highway and looking into the detouring what's called 98 highway to others, detouring the 98 highways. To put an agenda we can discuss.
Okay, you want the traffic diverted from 98?
Yes, I mean, I'm talking about that rerouting the 98 highway and plus the requesting. We are supposed to be requesting.
Okay, requesting.
And, yeah, and the other one is put send the signal, more signal on the 98 highways between the, I believe, the clock and what's called the Andrade or El Rivera.
Okay. So you want...
two things together.
No, just one thing.
98 highway.
So one thing on 98 highway. What is it that you want for 98 highway?
Highway to put the signal, install the more signal.
To look at feasibility of putting a signal on Highway 98?
Yes.
Okay.
And detouring the process for the future.
98 and where?
98 highway between the what was called the, I think David
Navarro.
The David Navarro till the Eddie Rivera.
Okay, well, maybe you know more about it, but...
Put it on the agenda, we can discuss. We don't, we don't have to spend time again to discuss again here. I think it's a step that I need to give the step to the searching the zone to put in the agenda.
Right.
We can discuss.
Right.
But even if you decide that we need another signal or 3 signals, Caltrans has the say-so.
Yes, I understand.
We can discuss it, and I'm going to be bringing more information to the council,
Please.
as I said before.
Please.
Thank you. Mr. Castro, is there any item that you'd like to put on?
Yes, I would like to add to Mr. Servin. I would like to add on the issue that Mr. Kim mentioned on the traffic on 98. If it is possible to reduce the speed from Bowker to all the way to Coal Road, because there is, I believe, there is 5 schools on that area, 98. So at least something fast, just to start to reduce the speed limit from Bowker all the way to, I believe, is Cloak? Yeah, Cloak. No, yeah, Cloak.
That's a good first step.
That's the first step that we should
check the
start.
speed limits on those areas.
Yeah, and
What I'll do is I'll bring a report as to what we have right now, and I already have discussions with the Caltrans. I'm going to be meeting with them probably in about a couple of weeks, so I'll bring this up again.
it's not going to be for next public council meeting?
I don't know. Remember, it's their jurisdiction. We can request, and if we get an answer, we get an answer. If we don't, I have to wait.
But let's talk next meeting. Let's talk at the next meeting. Whatever you guys
Yes.
have ready, talk, and
I
then
will.
we go from next step.
Okay, no problem.
Is that fine,
Also,
Mr. Castro?
no, also at the beginning of the meeting, a lady, I don't know, Rosario, she been asked us about the issue for a group of seniors. They are struggling to ride the senior transit service. She tell us that there is some kind of a problem to get or to ride the bus the same day. This lady mentioned that it's hard for them because they call the transit and they say, you know what, you need to wait at least 1 day or 2 days in order to serve you. And I would like to hear from the city of Calexico, from either from UNIC or either from the city manager, for the next public council meeting, I want to tell the people exactly what are the process is in order to pick up senior citizens.
Okay, Mr. Castro,
let me finish.
There was one item that you've already mentioned 2. I've only allowed you 1 item. What item would you like? Would you like the senior citizen?
Why is 1 item?
Because we need to be efficient here.
Why?
Okay.
No, 98
oh,
is
98
here.
is yours.
Yeah.
And your 1 item is
Yes.
the senior transport.
Exactly.
Okay.
So
why it takes too long a turnaround? Like if somebody calls on Tuesday, they don't come till Friday.
yeah, so the citizen, the senior, especially the senior, they need to know how the process is.
Put on the agenda, we can discuss.
Mr. Castro, can we talk tomorrow about this so I can find out exactly what
He asking the...
Excuse me, Mr. Kim, I'm running the meeting. Let him
Yes.
have the discussion with him. Mr. Hodge is ready to go. Look, he's got 1 foot out the door. And I'm not going to tell you where the other foot is.
I'd be more than happy, Mr. Castro. We can talk tomorrow so we can make this pretty solid.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you very much.